Alright, so it's been a long time since I've been in here. Winter time approaches. Well, winter. So let's see. I've kind of forgotten what the deal was. Other than my defrost does not work because the actuator. So I disconnected this so that I would have air coming out the front vents and it would stay there. I believe. Okay. Looks like that's supposed to go over where? There's the two towers there. So does it go in there? What was broken off? There's something broken off in there. That arm goes back and forth. I tie wrapped it there. I hope I have that other screw. It goes in there somewhere. So I gotta assume. That was an assume, but I'll assume anyway. That goes in there. If that's the case, and you fire this thing up, it'll suck all the way in like that and hold it in this position. So that goes there. Right? Well, that's awfully tight for it to be in there. So something's missing from the top. I'm going to have to run to the junkyard and open one up and have a look and see what it's supposed to look like. There's the other actuator over there. But I also have a vacuum problem. I don't think I'm getting vacuum up here. I think that is one of the main issues. Somewhere down under the right instrument panel. It's the vacuum line. I'm remembering now. Up in the engine compartment is a place where that line comes for. I'm going to bypass it. I bought a big long section of vacuum tube so I can go right from underneath the hood, come in through the door and hook it above this little funky connector down here and see if it operates the way it's supposed to. If that's what it is, then I have a problem in the vacuum system there, and then just a matter of figuring out how that's supposed to hook up. Okay, I think I'm good now. Alright, so here in the engine compartment and on the right side here you'll find this little red vacuum line which goes down there somewhere. It's got a little T, little connector, and it's hooked to this little black tube. So I bypassed the little black tube, put a piece of vacuum hose on it because for some reason things aren't working up there. And if you look down here, the black tube comes through, but there's a little, you can see it up there, some kind of little bulkhead fitting or something. But my theory was if you bypass that and just run straight to wherever the vacuum essentially manifold is, and all this stuff might work. This is a yellow vacuum hose right there. Comes down to that actuator. And apparently the way it works is that little black tube comes up to here. This is the manifold right here. All these little vacuum lines which go to the switch over here. Panel switches. So this black tube theoretically would be that one. It took some doing. I had to pry it off a pair of pliers, get underneath the bottom of it and push it off of there. Make note, this yellow connector goes to that, little red connector goes to that, this little blue one goes to this one, which will eventually be sitting back down there to control this arm, which basically controls the air to the defrost. It's a little interesting. So put that in the way. So I'm going to select floor. Did I even hook that up? It's not going to do any good with this line sitting in my lap, is it? Okay, so here's my line. Yeah. Duh. Okay, so Why is this fighting me back now? So right next to the other line goes this line. You can hear it sucking. Is that the right one? It's hard to tell, but there's a... There we go. So, vacuum line now on there. Select floor. Let's see. Anything happen? I can hear something happen. Test that actuator down on my foot or not. If something happens, go to mix. Something happens somewhere else. Defrost. This should be over there for defrost. As you can see, that extend out. So I got air coming through there finally. Back off. We go to vent. Alright, what's not happening now? Oh, okay. Start all over again. My vacuum line came off. Okay, there's its normal configuration. Sucked in. Floor, you can see something happen. I can feel air at the floor. Go to mix, that one goes out. Go to defrost, goes all the way farther. There must be a combination between these two and that one, because this, you see that one's still stuck out there. Back off, that one configures. Go to vent, and now the one that's missing goes, which would take this one, bring it that way, which blows air out the front vents. So air conditioning changes nothing because the air comes out the front vents. Vent off. So this normally is in this position. Interesting, because I put that in that position to keep the air coming through the vent. Well, that's interesting. So the vacuum's working now, so I have to figure out a way to run this somehow back up in there and bypass that other one. And I need to repair this connection here. I think it's just a matter of maybe just tie wrapping it across the top of that. Find another screw. Where the hell is my screw? So there's a piece of broken plastic that went on that. So let me get a look at that and see if I can just simply tie wrap it or something and get it all working first, and then I'll worry about where to route that. But at least now I know what's going on here and how to get some vacuum up here. Alright, so I stuck it back in there, installed this thing. I don't remember why. If it was, I think it was just laying in there when I got in here. I have to go back and look at the video that precedes this. Anyway, the arm goes on there, which looked obvious, but you cannot put it down straight on top of it. I pondered that for a little bit, and the only answer would be if there's a cutout underneath this where this arm goes, and indeed that appears to be the way it is. I took the actuator and turned it sideways, so that and then pulled this way, pulled the whole thing that way, laid it in there, and then as you turn it, it goes up underneath the slot and over that post. There's no way that comes off of there by itself. There's probably a clip or something because of that broken plastic piece, but I don't see how that's ever going to come off there by itself when the thing's attached. So it's back in place. I believe everything's going to work. We'll just see, shall we? That automatically pulls over for off position, which is kind of weird. Go to floor. I can hear actuator down by the floor. Let me turn some air on here. I can feel that. So floor air comes out there. Mix. has that actuator move. Defrost has it move even farther, and air is coming out of the defrost vents, which is a very nice thing, so I can get some defrost going. And then go to vent. That one flips over, and the air all stays that way. So I just have to figure out how to run the vacuum line. I think we're in business. It's gonna be a little tricky. We'll see what happens. All right, it's up in here. You can be able to see this. I pulled this line out a bit. That's the fitting that goes through the bulkhead, and then there's another kind of a connector fitting behind it, which I really can't get a look at. So I said, okay, well maybe I can get access. You can see where it is. It's up under there. So just in case you want to try this, I pulled the inner fender liner out. Nope. Gets me access to nothing. So I'm gonna have to, I don't know, we'll figure it out. I have to dig in here somehow. And I'll just cut a hole in the fender. So it looks like all that's way in behind there somewhere. I'd really like to know what it is, what those, if they're just connectors, if they play any role in anything, or if I just got to run another line and bypass that and somehow figure out how to get it in there. There is the engine compartment right there, so it's a possibility I may go on the inside in here, come through, pop a hole somewhere in here, maybe, and run it up into here. And what I'm going to try to do is, if I can get these apart, I want to try to tap it in on this side, so hopefully this hose here is intact, so I don't have to go all the way up there with it. Alright, we'll continue on. Bah humbug. Alright, so I managed to pull that fitting out of off the tube basically, and managed to get the other connecting piece off it, and lo and behold, the line from the top down here is open. So I just stuck my vacuum line on here, which just fell off, and everything works. So beauteous. This is mounted. I put the hose back on where it belongs, the tube. So all our vacuum tubes are back where they belong. Everything's working. I'm going to close this up. Now it all comes down to finding a place to run this vacuum hose from the engine compartment to this line here, and I gotta believe, I have a feeling it's gonna end up coming somewhere in here probably. I'll poke a hole, see what else is in there. I could just kind of lay it right up in here and lay it down in there. You know what, I may just do that, put it right up in there. Alright, well that's next. I think I'll be doing that tomorrow, run out of light. Alright, see you then. Okay, well, I tried one more time to blow out that little plastic tube. No joy. I don't know if there's a switch or some kind of connector or something in between there, between the outside and the inside, but either way. So I pulled the engine cover. For some reason there's a little hole down here. I'm going to open that up and run my tubing right in there. I'm going to leave the old tubing right here. I put the new tube into the T, run it down along the back here. You can see that I've tied it to a little thing there. I'm going to try to tie it up as close to the side as I can. It's not a little plastic tube, so hopefully it won't get melted in there. I believe, oops, I got it tied up under here. I think it's probably far enough away. There's the exhaust manifold right there, but it'll be coming up underneath there, I hope. I don't know if there was something time poked up in there. Either way, I'm gonna man, steel. Just trying to jump, grab it. We're going to chip away at it a little bit. Let's get a file on that. That'll go right through there. Alright, let me file that down, and I think I'm going to try to run it up under here. Pop out there, it'll be up under there, or it'll be somewhat hidden. I'm just going to have to make a note of it, so that if there's any problems down the line, somebody will be able to find that and figure it out. Okay, so I said I've tied it to that one. I brought it up underneath it and tied it down to this other tube right there. Come up through my hole. Hopefully there's not going to be a bunch of motion, so it won't eat into it. Got it up under here. I'm not going to cut it off yet until I for sure. You can see where this one's going to go, so it's just going to go right up underneath there, and it'll connect right to there. Backed up poly. Oh well. I'll bury that sucker right up under the carpet. When I hook it up, I'll just push it back up under there. I don't even know about it. Alright. Question here is, can I put the engine cover on there? Will the seal deform enough so that it won't pinch this and it'll still work? Let's find out. I think we're looking good. Back in place. I haven't cut it off yet. I'm about to. You can see up there the tube though. I'm gonna fire it up and make sure everything's hunky-dory. I got vacuum. I think it's gonna work just dandy. Hook that sucker to the little tube, and our ventilation system will be back in order. I'm gonna call that finito. Alright, and the addendum to the finito. There you have it. You can see the little tube in there. I left the other tube with its little connector piece on there, back in there, so you can see where it is. Runs behind, under the carpet, under the panel, through the engine compartment. Up here, shooting tube, tied up down there, out of the way. Hopefully it's rubber tubing, vacuum hose. I don't think it gets that hot up under there. Call it a wrap this time for sure. For real, I mean. Okay, so I bypassed the blocked part of my vacuum system and got my actuators working again. However, somewhere back months and months ago, when I was first looking on the internet to figure this out, I had seen something where somebody put a vacuum reservoir, and I'd forgotten all about that. And it appears to be significant. The deal with that is, at idle you get plenty of vacuum, but when you're accelerating and the engine's throttle's open, your vacuum drops off significantly. And what happened to me, I was driving on with the air conditioning on, being so proud that I had my entire air distribution system working again. And as I accelerated down the road, my air flow dropped to nothing. And then it all came back to me thinking, well, I know what that's about. So apparently the reservoir is under the dash up in there, is where the line goes from the engine into that. Therefore need to add a reservoir, and I believe the YouTube channel is Ford Fix, and the gentleman there shows how to get the actual reservoir from Ford and stick it up under the right panel over there, and a little check valve. I've already run my bypass. I've already bypassed it and put my vacuum line down in the bottom there, of course. So I am going to duplicate what he has done. I'm going to grab a reservoir and a check valve, slap it up under there, and I should be good back to go again, because you need that reservoir. Back in the old days, I'm thinking the late 60s, I know at least, had a 67 Cuda, they had one of these in there. They have a fuel economy gauge in the dash, and it read, I believe, poor economy, something like that, and it was a little needle, and basically when you're idle it would say economy, and as you jumped on the gas that needle would drop over to poor or something of that nature, and all it was a vacuum gauge that operated, so when you're idling it showed you having good economy. So what happens is you accelerate down the road, you get up the speed, engine speed drops back down to low speed where you're cruising along, and your vacuum goes back up and all your airflow comes back. So it's not a terrible thing, but the proper way to do it, if you lose your vacuum reservoir, which is essentially what happened here, on top of all that nonsense I had going up in the dash. So next stop is to order up a couple of parts and go ahead and put this thing back into its original configuration as far as the vacuum system goes. You got to have that extra volume of vacuum in there to take the place of when you accelerate, to hold everything in place. So that's the next step, and we shall get to that. See you on the other side.